I never imagined that I would be standing at this point in my marriage. A month ago, everything felt right. Our relationship was solid, or so I thought. We were inseparable, shared everything, laughed together, and went on dates every weekend. We trusted each other and supported one another, no matter what. I had done everything to make sure my wife had a good life. I thought we were happy, that we had built something that would last. But now I find myself standing in an empty room, filling out divorce papers, trying to make sense of how everything fell apart. It feels surreal. I want to scream, but all I can do is sit quietly, wondering how the person I once loved could become a stranger. I had always believed that the bond between us was unbreakable. We had our ups and downs, sure, but who doesn't? We had survived the challenges of life together. Financial stress, family issues, health scares. Through it all, we had each other. Or so I thought. But now I am filing for divorce and the reality of it is crushing. It all started innocently enough, or at least it seemed that way at first. My wife had started going to the gym. She had been talking about it for a while, saying that she felt out of shape and wanted to get healthier. I supported her, of course. I thought it was a great idea. But after a few weeks, I started to notice subtle changes in her. At first, I didn't think much of it. She was working harder at the gym, more focused on her health, and I was proud of her. I told myself she was just becoming more disciplined. But then something happened, something I couldn't ignore. She started spending more time at the gym, sometimes staying for hours. She would tell me stories about the people she had met there, particularly a man she had been talking to. At first, I didn't think it was anything more than a new friendship. I was happy that she was making new connections. But as the weeks went by, I began to notice a change in her behavior. She was distracted, more distant. She would often check her phone at odd hours, and when I asked her who she was talking to, she would brush me off or give vague answers. I could feel that something was slipping away, but I didn't want to believe it. I told myself I was being paranoid. Then came the texts. I wasn't snooping. I wasn't the kind of person who did that. But one evening, as she left her phone on the kitchen counter, a message popped up on the screen. It was from him. The text was flirtatious, playful, and full of emojis. I felt my stomach drop as I read it. My first instinct was to brush it off, tell myself it was nothing. But as the messages kept coming, I couldn't ignore them anymore. I confronted her, my heart racing, but instead of the remorse I expected, she was cold, almost defiant. She didn't apologize. Instead, she told me she was in love with him. The words hit me like a ton of bricks. I felt as though the floor had been ripped out from beneath me. She had never said anything like that before. She told me that she hadn't loved me for a while. She said she loved the attention he gave her, that he made her feel special in ways I hadn't. He made her feel desired and wanted, in a way I hadn't in years. Her confession cut deeper than any physical wound could have. It was as if the person I had trusted most in the world had vanished, leaving behind someone I didn't recognize. She didn't even try to hide it. She was straightforward about it, as though she were telling me about a new hobby, not an affair. I stood there frozen, trying to process what she was saying, but my mind couldn't keep up. Everything I thought I knew, everything I thought I had with her, was gone. I couldn't speak. I couldn't find the words. All I could do was stand there staring at her as she calmly told me she was leaving me for him. It wasn't just the emotional betrayal that hurt. It was the realization that she had been lying to me for months, building a life with someone else while I had been oblivious. The man she had fallen for wasn't just a friend. He was everything I had failed to be. He was exciting, new, and most of all, he made her feel alive again. And I had been left behind, in the dust of her old life. I spent the next 2 weeks in a daze. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I was consumed by thoughts of her and him, wondering how it had all gone wrong. I begged her to come back, to end things with him, to give our marriage another chance. But she wasn't interested. She was already emotionally and physically involved with him. She told me it was too late, that she couldn't go back. She had found something in him that I couldn't give her. I did something I never thought I would do. In a final attempt to salvage something, to force her to make a choice, I gave her an ultimatum, him or me. Her response was as cold as I had ever seen her. She told me she didn't know what she wanted. That was when I realized it was over. I stormed out of the house seeking refuge with my parents and in-laws. I didn't know where else to turn. I couldn't face her anymore. She was furious that I had told our families the truth about the affair. She was angry that I had exposed her to the people who cared about us. But as angry as she was, I felt an overwhelming sense of relief. The affair continued, even as she pretended to end things with him. The lies piled up. They went on dates, talked about their future, and even joked about what their children might look like. I couldn't pretend anymore. I filed for divorce. I knew it would shock her, but I didn't care. I needed her to understand that I wasn't going to be her second choice. I wasn't going to wait around for her to decide if she wanted me or not. The day I served her the papers was a turning point for me. I had expected her to be angry, upset, but what I didn't expect was the relief that washed over me. For the first time in a long while, I felt like I was in control of my life again. I was done being a passive participant in my own marriage. I had been betrayed, but I was still whole. I had finally taken control of my life, and it felt empowering. The process wasn't easy. Divorce is never easy. There were moments when I doubted myself, when I second-guessed my decision. I couldn't help but wonder if I had done something wrong, if I could have saved our marriage. But slowly, I began to heal. I focused on myself. I went to counseling, hit the gym, and leaned on my family and friends. The more I worked on myself, the more I realized that I was capable of so much more than I had thought. I had been so focused on her, on trying to fix our marriage, that I had neglected myself. Now, for the first time in years, I was taking care of me. The months that followed were a blur. I was getting stronger every day. The anger I had felt at first faded into something else: acceptance. I could see clearly now how toxic our relationship had become. I had been giving so much of myself to someone who didn't appreciate it. I had been invested in a relationship that was no longer mutual. But now I was putting myself first. By the time I was a few months out of the divorce, I realized I had moved on. It wasn't instant, but the indifference I had toward my ex-wife grew stronger with each passing day. I didn't care about her life anymore. The relationship with her affair partner meant nothing to me. I didn't need to track her social media or ask about her life. I had reached a place of peace. It was a quiet victory, one I never thought I would experience. I had let go, and in doing so, I had freed myself. As I began dating again, I realized something else. There were people out there who were better for me than she ever was. I met new people, found connections that were real and sincere. I felt a sense of freedom I hadn't experienced in years. The pain from the divorce was still there, but it wasn't all-consuming anymore. I had found peace in the chaos, and I was learning to navigate life without her. It hasn't been easy, but I'm getting there. I've learned more about myself in the past few months than I ever did during my marriage. I'm not the same person I was when I walked into that gym, confronted her, and walked out of our marriage. I've grown. I've changed. And while I'm still mourning the loss of what could have been, I know that I am better off without her. Looking back, I realize how much I had been holding on to. I had been waiting for her to come back to see the truth of what she had done, but she never did. And that's okay. I've accepted that. The hardest part was letting go. But once I did, it was like a weight had been lifted from my shoulders. I can't say what the future holds, but I know one thing for sure: I will be okay. I will heal. I will grow. And someday I will find someone who truly deserves me. For anyone going through something similar, I want you to know that you are not alone. The pain is real, but it doesn't last forever. Focus on yourself. Take care of your body, your mind, and your soul. Surround yourself with people who love and support you. And remember, no matter how deep the hurt, you can come out stronger on the other side.